let's just read through some of these. I'll put them in one at a time here. I'll try to
Why
give
does
you an
it
example.
why does it say math lesson?
I just always use that as a starting point when I create my template. All right, could you read what's written here, please?
Aerobic respiration, glucose plus oxygen is carbon dioxide plus water.
Yeah, so here's how your teacher could ask this. They could give you like a fill in the blank for them, where you have to know these that each of these goes in these positions. Is that okay? Like you could see a problem where maybe it's written like this, where it's glucose and then carbon dioxide, which is sometimes written as CO2 plus H2O. Your teacher would want you to know that what goes in this box here.
hmm
What would go in that box there?
Uh, oxygen.
Yes, exactly. So that's kind of a starting point for us. I got to be careful or not to pick questions that are too difficult, because you're only in sixth grade, and these are pretty tough questions. Some of the things your teacher's asking you for. Do you have kind of a okay? Let me put up another thing in front of you here. We'll just try this way then. All right. So next thing is active transport. You and I talked about active and passive transport the other day. Do you remember that? We were writing
Yeah,
that down.
yeah.
What is the difference between active and passive transport? Do you remember that?
No.
Okay. Well, let's read these together. Could you read active transport or passive transport, one or the other for us?
Active transport. The cell uses energy to move substances and in or out, protein pumps and vessel transport.
Okay. And passive transport.
Substances go in or out of the cell wall without using the cell's energy, diffusion, osmosis, and facilitated diffusion.
Do you see how energy is in both?
Yeah,
Which one uses energy and which does not?
none.
One of these uses energy. Which one uses energy? Active or passive transport?
Active.
Yeah. So that's the big difference. Active transport uses energy, passive transport, no energy. Is that clear?
Uh huh.
Because that's likely going to be a question on the test. What's the difference between active and passive transport?
Active uses energy and passive doesn't.
That's right. Very good. Okay. Let's look at the next two, aerobic respiration and anaerobic respiration. Let's have you read each of these.
Huh?
I'm asking you to read these two definitions, then we'll try to compare them.
Aerobic respiration requires oxygen, produces lots of energy, 36 to 38 units of ATP. Anaerobic respiration, breaking down sugar for energy without oxygen.
Does not make as much ATP. So what's kind of some differences or similarities between these?
It doesn't make as much ATP.
Okay, agreed. Which one requires oxygen?
Uh, Aerobic respiration.
And does anaerobic respiration, does it require oxygen?
No.
So that's a difference. So there's like the way you could study this is you could say aerobic and aerobic right here, and you could have one for oxygen and ATP. And which one requires oxygen?
Uh, Aerobic.
Aerobic requires oxygen. Which one makes more ATP?
Anaerobic.
Anaerobic does not make as much ATP. Is that okay?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm just reading this. Sorry, you talked me into that. All right. So this is kind of the way to answer these types of questions. Um, do you not have any study guides from your book or worksheets from class on this?
No.
Okay. What do you guys typically do in your science class?
I don't know.
Okay. Well, you're the only one that's in class. It's not, you're the only one that would know. Okay. Could you read this for me, please?
A molecule used for energy in the cell.
ATP is a molecule used for energy in the cell. All right. Do you ever make flashcard note
No.
cards? Okay, so I would make a note card for this. I would put ATP on the front and on the back I would write the definition here, a molecule used for energy in the cell. Do you have any 3x5 cards?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Do you have any with you right now?
No.
Can you get some?
We don't have them at all in the house.
You don't have any 3x5 cards. Okay,
No.
how about index cards? Do you have any do you have paper that you can cut up?
The only paper we have is printer paper,
Well, that's okay. You can cut that up and make these note cards. And that would be the best way to study this.
but we can't take these in the class.
Well, you can't take any of the notes in the class either, so maybe we should just okay. Um, did you guys get a picture of a cell at some point
Yeah.
in your book? Okay, that's kind of a common test question, which is like, what is the, label the cell. Uh, do you have any of those in your notes?
Mm-hmm.
You do?
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
The
that's
test is
great.
just, the test is just answering questions. We don't need to know what a cell looks like.
Well, they could ask you a question about the structure of the cell. Okay, so let's look at this. So a cell membrane surrounds the cell and control what goes in or out of it.
Can I go to the bathroom?
Sure.
Yeah, I'm back.
Okay, a cell membrane surrounds the cell and controls what goes in or out. Can you think of something else that controls what goes in or out?
Um, cell wall.
No, just something else in your home. Think about your home. What controls what goes in or out of your home?
Uh, generator.
I okay, I don't think you understand my question. Do you ever leave your home? Do you ever go outside?
Yeah,
Okay, how do you get outside? What do you go through?
a door.
A door. Cell membrane is like a door. It controls what goes in and what goes out.
But I don't control the door. I just open it whenever I want.
Okay, do you want my help today or not?
Yeah.
Okay, that comment isn't very helpful, what you just said. Okay, let's look at a cell wall. Let's read what it says about a cell wall. It surrounds the cell membrane and provides extra structure and support. Okay, so a cell wall, you can think of it as literally like a wall. It's a support. Okay, now what is this last part here?
Cell theory.
No, what did I underline?
Not found in animals.
Yes, so that's very important. That's probably something that will come up on your test. Your teacher will ask you a question like, in what organism are you unlikely to find a cell wall? And one of the answers will be animals. Okay, so remember how we were talking about this idea of making some note cards?
Yeah.
Okay, so I still recommend that you make them. I was going to even suggest that you make them during our lesson because that would help. Cell theory is like a perfect note card. Okay. Cell theory. The idea that all living things are composed of cells. Cells are the basic units of structure and the function in living things, and new cells are produced from existing cells. So on one side, again, on the front, it might be cell theory, and on the back, we're just going to list these three things here. All living things are composed of cells. That will probably be the first question on your test. It will say, what are all living things composed of? And how will you answer?
Cell.
Cells. That will be probably the first question on your test. They're also the basic units of structure.
The all living things are composed of cells is way too easy. I don't think they'd put that on a test.
Right. Do you want my help? This is the last time I'm going to ask before I end the lesson today.
Yeah.
Okay. Try to think before you speak. If you disagree with me, that's fine, but keep it to yourself because you don't want my help when you disagree with me. Do you understand what I'm trying to tell you?
Yeah.
Keep those comments to yourself. You may be right. It may not be the first question. but I'm also trying to help you with what I think might be the first question. I might be wrong. You might be wrong, but I'm doing it in an effort to help you. So that's the last time that I will accept a comment like that from you. Okay, the third thing here is that new cells are produced from existing cells. So I would tell you to make a note card where you put cell theory on the front, but on the back list this information. All right, so I think I've got a question here that we can finally answer. All right. Here we go. Okay, could you read this question out loud for us?
What does a plant cell have that an animal cell does not have?
Okay. Do you feel like we have talked about this exact question?
Yeah.
Okay. So first of all, like you and I have not talked about mitochondria or vacuoli. So it's probably not those. We have talked about a cell wall and a cell membrane. Which one do you think it is? And if you need to look at your notes there.
Uh, cell wall.
All right, let's take a look here. A cell wall is not found in animals. Perfect. That is correct. Very good. All right, let's keep going here. Sometimes it helps just to go through all the definitions and then make up some questions along the way. All right, let's look at the cellular respiration. Okay, cellular respiration. It's the process of breaking down energy for sugar. So the teacher might ask, and that's why it's so important to know the definitions, is what what is cellular respiration used for? Okay, and the answers might be um, water, oxygen, glucose, carbon dioxide. Okay. Which of these words is another word for sugar?
Glucose.
Glucose, right? So it may not be exactly that word, but yeah, it's glucose. That's why it's so important to know the definition. Okay. The next thing that I'm kind of seeing here is well, actually there's some more stuff. Your teacher did this in alphabetical order rather than in content order. So we do have a few more things to talk about in cells. Okay. The mitochondrion. Mitochondrion. What do the mitochondrion do?
Uh, breaks down sugar for energy.
That's right. The nucleus is the next word to look at. That's where the DNA is contained. It tells the cells what to do. Uh, you can think of the nucleus kind of like the brain center of it. Um, the organelle. The organelle is a tiny cell structure that carries out a specific function within the cell. So these are all like definitions, right? These are all like things to to somehow have memorized, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let me throw up another question here. Actually, no, I don't like that question. It's very hard to find questions because they're all for a much more difficult course than yours. So you may be asked some questions on the structure of the cell. You have to kind of have a baseline of what each of these are. And I think you're getting that. There's kind of this transition now to plants and photosynthesis. Do you have any questions though on cellular structure before we move on to plants and photosynthesis?
No.
Okay. Let me see if there's any other words here that could be useful. I mean, they're all potentially useful here. This is tough. Okay. Um, Try planet, predict the results of osmosis, water go in or out. Okay. All right. So what do you know about photosynthesis? What do you remember from class about photosynthesis?
The plant takes light to make sugar.
Yes. And oxygen. Very good. That's important. So remember that we started out with one of these relationships for aerobic respiration.
Yeah.
Okay, there's also one for photosynthesis, right? It's easy to get them confused because they've got kind of all the same stuff in there. So how do you plan to make sure that you know the difference between these? Like, I mean, you said it, you said photosynthesis produces sugar and oxygen. How do you plan to remember the difference between these two?
I'll just know that if carbon dioxide is the first word, then I'll just know it's photosynthesis.
Okay, that will work. That will absolutely work. Okay, let's look at some other stuff here. Oh boy, this is tough. There's just not a lot of practice materials at your grade level on this. That's okay. We're gonna keep going here. We're gonna talk about now chlorophyll and chloroplast. That was part of the reading we did the other day. Chlorophyll is a green pigment in chloroplast that absorb light energy for photosynthesis. You already mentioned that. Chloroplasts make sugar using light from the sun found in plants and algae. So do animals contain chlorophyll and chloroplasts?
No.
Just plants. So there's this like key division and like, is it about plants or is it about like animals? Animals have this respiration stuff that we've been talking about. Plants, you're doing the chlorophyll, chloroplast stuff as well. So you got to know the difference between them. Let's see here. What else? Uh, so then there's also just this definition of photosynthesis to know, which you kind of already said, making sugar from light. All right, let me see if I can find something here that'll be a little better for us to work on. Okay, here's a question. Here is a good question for us. This kind of covers everything that we've been doing so far. So there are four labels here. We'll call them A, B, C, and D. And you're welcome to use that paper that your mom sent over. Can you tell me what goes where in this plant cell? What goes in the cell membrane or chloroplast, nucleus, or and so on.
C goes for cell membrane.
Okay, that's true. I agree with that.
Chloroplast is for D.
Okay.
Nucleus is A.
Okay. And that means that the mitochondria are B. Okay, good. Very good. That wasn't as hard as I thought it would be for you. That's excellent. Um, all right. Just looking for some more questions here to help you. Right, here is a question. Okay, here we go. Where is DNA found inside a cell?
Cytoplasm.
How sure are you of your answer?
Very.
Okay. Did we talk about the cytoplasm on that sheet?
No.
Okay. It is there. Let me snip in what cytoplasm is. Cytoplasm is a jelly-like fluid that contains the organelles. Would you like to change your answer?
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's a good choice. Sometimes you can just eliminate answers. Are there any answers there that you can eliminate?
Nucleus.
I was thinking more like, yeah, okay. So why is it not the nucleus?
Because it just controls the cell.
Okay. Where do you think that control comes from?
DNA.
Yes. So that is the correct answer. I was hoping you would say something like the cell membrane, because that's the functions in and out of the cell. It's like the door. That's okay. So here we go. Here's another question for you to try. Aiden, do you understand what I'm asking you to do here?
Yeah, I'm just thinking.
Okay. Photosynthesis is a chemical reaction that is important because are there any answers that you can remove?
B.
Why can you remove B?
Because it says as waste, it produces CO2.
Okay. I was hoping you might say C and D. I mean, it doesn't destroy species. It's not important.
I was gonna say those after.
Okay. So that means if that's true, then what must be the answer?
A.
It is A. All right. Good job. All right. Here's a new question for you to answer.
Uh, C.
It is the cell. That is the most basic structure of living things. Good. Um, what did I? Just making sure I didn't double up on questions. All right, here we go. We got another question. Cellular respiration is important because
B.
okay. How certain are you of your answer?
Actually, it's A.
This is the big one, right? It's this question, the one before it, right? We talk about CO2 to produce sugar for produces O2 as waste. That's the big one here. It is B. It is B. That's why you've got to have those two, aerobic. I'm sorry, those two, photosynthesis and then the respiration down. It's easy to kind of refer to the wrong one. All right, let's look at another question here. Hopefully this is helping. All right. What does DNA stand for?
D.
It is not D.
C.
It's not C either. Feels like you're just guessing at this point. Did you not cover this in class, what DNA stands for?
No.
Okay. Always tell me that. Say, hey, you know what? I don't know because we haven't covered that in class. All right, here's another question. Where do plants receive their nutrients?
Light.
Well, you got to be careful here. They they absorb light, but where do they actually get their nutrition from?
Air.
It's from the soil. The soil. But they use light. They use light for photosynthesis. All right, let me see if I can find some more questions here. These all seem too difficult for what you guys are going to see. Okay, let's try another question here. All right, the net effect or the output, the results of photosynthesis. What does it produce? What does photosynthesis produce?
Oxygen and ATP.
That is incorrect. It is oxygen.
Oxygen and carbohydrates.
Yes. Now, I believe it requires ATP, but that's not part of it. Okay, this is a new question. I don't know if you guys have studied permeability, semi-permeability or not. Maybe you know the answer. Basically, like, and the cell membrane, does it allow stuff in or not? What do you think?
Yeah, cell membrane allows stuff in.
Okay, you're right. And it's the cell wall that supports it, but it's the cell membrane that it controls what goes in and out. So do you know what the difference is between permeable and semi-permeable?
No.
Okay. The the idea of permeable is that it's completely resistant, completely pass through. And we know that a cell membrane is not. It's only allows some of the things through. So that's why it is semi-permeable. Right. Trying to find some more questions here. All right, I'm gonna keep looking for a few more. Give me just a moment here, trying to find questions. These are all too difficult. Okay, let's go back and look at the list that Mom sent over. Um, there's a few that we did not look at, so we'll look at now. All right, so here you go. Here is one of the last words on there, vacuole. It stores materials. A plant cell has a large central one full of cell sap to keep the cell stiff. So one of the things you might do to review is you might again create a note card or sheet of paper. And you might say, okay, plant versus animal. Okay. And like the vacuole is for a plant. Okay. Is that clear? Um,
Uh
can you look
huh.
at the sheet there and find another word that goes with plant? Just
Um,
plant. Just plant.
a plant cell.
That's not one of the bolded words. Like for example, chlorophyll. Chlorophyll is only for plants. Is there another word that's just plants that you see on your sheet there?
Uh, cellular respiration.
Okay. That could be both. I mean, cells do that in both, but uh like there's some that are for sure, like photosynthesis. That's for sure a plant thing. Animals aren't doing photosynthesis. Now, what about aerobic versus anaerobic? Which goes in plant?
Aerobic.
Okay. Why is that?
Because glucose and the oxygen go into the
That
plant.
that's right. And it produces carbon dioxide and water. So yes, aerobic is here. Animals are traditionally anaerobic. You and I are anaerobic like that. Okay. What else here? Um, How about cytoplasm? Where do you think cytoplasm goes? Is it a plant or an animal thing?
Plant.
It's probably a plant, yeah. So that's the big thing that I think your teacher wants you to do. And you actually see that on the questions, being able to compare and contrast. Um, so the one last thing that we didn't talk much about is osmosis, which is the diffusion of water through a semi-permeable membrane. Can you think of any examples of osmosis?
Um, Water.
It definitely has water. Um, have you ever had salty potato chips?
Yeah.
Do you get thirsty?
Yeah.
That's an example of osmosis. Have you ever spent too much time in like getting a hot shower or a bath and your fingers swell?
Yeah.
That's an example of osmosis, or cold water too, but hot is it? Okay, we are all done for today. We got a solid review in.